All right, let's welcome into Straight Fire a guy who he can't wait to talk about this gambling drama in the NBA. Jared Smith, Fox Sports radio host, longtime gambler. He's on ground zero in Vegas. Jared, how you doing, man?
I'm good. It's definitely been a busy day, busy week. I feel like a lot of this news we've been kind of waiting to get the end result, and it finally came to a head today. But yeah, it's been a busy day, J
Yeah,
Mac.
very very interesting timing, huh? I'll just leave it at that. Interesting timing to have this pop the day after the NBA begins. And I mean, I thought we were going to be celebrating Wemby. Wemby was phenomenal. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Otani level. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, an NBA head coach has been hosting poker games that are with some nefarious individuals, shall we say. And then, of course, there's the Terry Rozier story, which is dragged on. I don't know which I think they were disconnected. The two were separate, Jared. But then as people dig in more, they're now like, oh, Billups may be linked to the gambling stuff. Where do you want to start? What do you find more interesting, Billups or Rozier?
Well, I mean, again, and it is obviously an open investigation, so there's a lot of things that I'm
Yeah.
still that need to be worked out, and no one's been found guilty of anything. But
Yes.
based on how I read the indictment, there is a someone, call him co-conspirator eight, that tipped off the mob that the Blazers weren't going to be playing their starters on a particular night, and then they described co-conspirator eight as a resident of Oregon, an NBA player from 1997 through 2014. So again, you can kind of connect the dots on who that
Right.
co-conspirator eight is. But that person is very interesting to me because that is right, like in All the President's Men, Deep Throat, The Source, like that person is giving out information that is not publicly available, that the sports books don't know about, that can obviously impact the market. So I don't know who that person is. I'm assuming it is Chauncey BIllups just based on the
Yeah.
description, but there is no actual, he wasn't named in the sports betting side of the case. The poker side of the case, I'm not involved in the poker world as much, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that I've seen that have had Reddit posts and podcasts from years ago where Billups was involved in this kind of, let's call it nefarious behavior with nefarious characters. So that doesn't surprise me as much. The sports betting thing is concerning because you're talking about the integrity of the bets that are being
Right.
made, and that is where I think the league has the biggest problem.
Yeah. So the Billups stuff is interesting. I looked it up. He made, I believe, 135 million, 107, somewhere in there in his NBA career. Now he's coaching. This struck me as a little bit odd that a guy who made over 100 million, and yes, you take out taxes and the agent and stuff, fine, 40 mil, okay, over the course of his career. And he's coaching and getting paid. And I believe he was in the media at ESPN briefly, I think. And this guy is now all of a sudden like luring people allegedly into a poker game run by the mob so they could get cleaned out and he would what, get a commission? I some of this struck me as just that sounds odd, but I don't know Chauncey Billups at all, and he has had some checkered stuff in his past allegations, of course. But this whole like he tipped off people about sitting starters. Did you go back and look at the box scores by any chance? Because I did.
They didn't play in that particular, like the
Right.
game that was in question was a game where that information was highly valuable
Mm-hmm.
information. And that's again the important part to definitely note here is that like I saw the Damon Jones part of the indictment as well, where he's basically telling people to bet on the Bucks one night because LeBron potentially is going to be sitting. That is not as damaging to
Right.
me because it's just we see teams play
Yeah.
and overcome that all the time. It's not a direct correlation. It's really the player props that they're having the biggest issue with, J Max. So I think there's definitely a regulation that needs to be added to betting on player props, whether it's limiting the amount that you can bet on a particular prop or just limiting which side of the market you can bet on, based off of how big of a player you are. Like they maybe shouldn't let lower tier players like the Jonte Porter stuff have player props for him listed. So I definitely think there is a step of regulation that needs to be had in the player prop department. But I am not of the belief that we should be eliminating gambling or player props entirely because
Right.
of this particular incident. That's like the same logic as saying every time someone gets a DUI, let's get rid of alcohol. Like it just doesn't make sense from a logic perspective based on the country we live in. So I think there's conversations to be had about regulation, but I don't think we need to overstep.
Yeah. How about this? This idea that 200K was lost on player props. I mean, you're in Vegas. I don't move numbers. I'm not betting 30,000 on an April player prop. But here's the thing, Jared. You know this. You can't get down 30,000 or $25,000 on a player prop in a regular season game. At least none that I'm aware of. And I texted a lot of gamblers who I know who are in some syndicates. They're like, you can't bet $25,000 on a player prop. You can't do that tonight. Like, so I'm not understanding. Even if you had 10 accounts to get down 200,000, something feels a little off there.
That's where the racket part of it, right? The syndicate part of it comes in, where you're right. You probably can get down $1,000 on a prop if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Which means you need to have multiple people. They call them runners,
Right.
Or beards, right? Like, you can send people in to bet for you. But again, when you expand, and that's why, to your original point about Billups making all this money, why is he caring about this? Because when you start to filter it down, all right, you have all these people in this operation and you can only get down X amount and you have to pay everyone out. The amount that you're going to actually make hard cash from this is not even close to what you could make from an NBA coach or player salary. That's why I've always been against the games are rigged theory, because it's just, especially at the professional level, like, these guys make so much money. Like, why would they risk it? Because eventually, right, word filters out, your group gets big enough, and you're going to get caught. And if you continue to make the same pattern of bets, there are, roadblocks in place for you to get caught. In fact, I would argue regulation in general. Like, people are like, oh, we need to, criminalize gambling again. Legalize gambling is the cost of this. No, actually, legalized gambling is the reason why we caught them. So it's kind of a weird argument when people see this and they want to push back on the act itself and not the person committing the act. And that's where I try to be a voice of reason at times.
And I'm not defending Billups. I'm not saying he's the guy who should go to jail for this. But I just looked up his salary. He's around $5 million. These alleged poker games where he was bringing guys in and they would get cleaned out. What do you? I mean, he would have to be making. Hey, we'll give you $1 million off the books every single time you organize a poker. Like, you can't. You're not doing that for $50,000 unless Billups is just a moron. And it's just like, I want all the money. I'm greedy as hell. Like, there's just a lot of stuff that's not totally adding up. I know the Blazers suspended him. It just feels strange. I mean, Chauncey BIllups, he was a good player. He seems like a good coach. He sounds intelligent. Something seems off here. And the idea that he's like, yeah, we got the win in, I think it was April of 23.
Yeah.
They had lost 6 in a row. They were obviously garbage. And they get the win, and that was Dame Lillard played. After that, they just shut down their starters. They didn't want to lose like 20 games in a row to end the season, right? So, like, the idea that he's out there, hey, you should bet we're going to bench all our guys. Like, you could have known that just watching that they ain't playing their guys, right? Like, you know when teams are starting a tank mode, right?
Absolutely. And I always say this, to me, tanking isn't done. Like, I say this through the frame of the NFL, like, tanking's not done on Sundays. It's done during the week. The decisions that are made by the personnel people, hey, we're going to give this guy a shot at starting linebacker. We're going to give this guy a shot at starting quarterback. The meeting rooms, the way that the teams are coached, that's when tanking's done. Because all of these players, when the game starts, right, and the lights turn on, they're playing for a job. So it's really hard to argue unless you have a Terry Rozier situation where he's Deontay Porter intentionally not getting to a certain point based off of some kind of money that's involved. If a team is tanking for a roster spot or a draft pick, it's happening during the week. It's not happening on game days. So like the Billups stuff, I think we're going to get a lot more. Like, this is the tip of the iceberg, Jam. We're going to get a lot more information on him. I think what happens too is a lot of these guys just get into trouble with the wrong people. And they love to gamble, their competitors, and they get into some trouble. And then they, instead of paying the bookie, instead of paying the mob back, they just work. And hey, I'll earn, I'll do this, I'll do that. I think there is a case where some of these guys do get in trouble in that way. And that can be a cause for some of this, nefarious behavior.
So let's pivot to Terry Rozier. His is a little more interesting to me because A, the NBA investigated him. B, his lawyer came out and put out a strong statement to podcaster Pablo Torre, who is really all up in this, that, hey, Terry spoke to the FBI in 2023 multiple times. The NBA's looked into this. The FBI's looked into this. He didn't do anything. That's what his lawyer's saying. And it is weird because the NBA cleared Rozier here in the last, 6 months. Something feels again off here, Jared. Does this pass the smell test for you? Because are they using Rozier's name and the fact that he's like an actual NBA player to make a story here where maybe there isn't one? Or are they trying to embarrass the NBA? I don't know what's going on.
Possible. I think the more likely scenario is the NBA couldn't really get the hard evidence, or maybe they caught a sniff of some of the hard evidence and they just didn't want to go down that road, because this is, again, very damning for the NBA.
Yeah.
If all of this is true, again, the indictments are posted on the DOJ's website. I'm looking through them right now. Like, you can
Yeah.
go through them right now and you can read every line of it.
I'm sure you've heard the line, Jared. You can indict a ham sandwich.
100%.
It's a
You
famous line.
absolutely
Yeah.
can sue anyone. And
Yes.
I think that I don't want to jump to any conclusions about any of this being true, but some of it is just like almost too insane not to be true. Like, they're celebrating X amount of money on Rozier's, on his, in his house after the game. And again, I don't know why they would put that in the indictment unless it wasn't true. That's pretty hard evidence. So that to me is like, okay, yeah, no, there's definitely something
Mm.
there. And I think there was something there before. It's just maybe the corruption's always, listen, this isn't the first go around that the NBA has been through
Yeah.
this before. So there's always been things, and the more you uncover, right, the more threads you pull on. That's when it all, right? Like, I think the connection of it too is the scary part. The fact that Billups and Rozier and Damon Jones and Jonte Porter, the fact that they all have these weird dotted lines from these same, again, nefarious characters in these mafia organizations, and they're all kind of connected in some weird way.
Yeah.
That's the part of it that gives it a little more validity, because that's how groups work, right? They group it all together and they try to figure out a way to keep it all in house. So there's not all of these people out there with all of this information. So the fact that it is all kind of weaved together with all of these people working together to try to scam, not only with poker, but also with sports betting, to me, it does give it a little bit more starch.
Interesting. So this whole integrity of the league, a lot of people, oh, the NBA is ruined. You can't believe anything. I mean, Jared, there's like 450 players, right? We have what, like maybe 5 guys who have been tied up in some stuff. We'll see what happens. I don't like this idea that, oh, the league is ruined. You know, the whole baseball with gambling way back with the Black Sox way back in 1919 or whatever it was, and then you had Otani's interpreter. Every Sunday, betting football. Hey man, the referees, oh, they're on the take. This feels like normal, kind of, sort of. No.
Well, this particular situation is an extraordinary, rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah.
There's no way that this is what is taking place throughout the league on a nightly basis.
No,
it's just not.
Yeah.
It's just not. And again, I think at the professional level, you really can throw it out the window. Like, NFL's been hit with a couple minor things, right? You had Calvin Ridley, I think, betting on basketball at the team facility. Like that, again, like that kind of stuff is just the housekeeping of learning how to deal with regulated gambling in the professional sports world. We have not had any incident rise to this level where you have players leaking or coaches leaking information that certain people will be out to gain an advantage on the books. Even the Emmanuel Clase stuff, right, in baseball, that is so isolated because those are micro bets that you can only get down X amount on.
Wait, I don't even know who that is.
Oh, Emmanuel Clase is the Guardians pitcher. I think there was another one who was telling his family, I think, and again, none of this is 100% confirmed, but telling his family, so you can make a micro bet on whether the first pitch of an inning will be a ball or a strike.
Oh, geez.
And the pitcher has so much control over that, and it doesn't even really impact the outcome of the game at all. Like, if it's 1-0, top of the first inning, like, who cares? It's literally no impact on the game. So those are the types of bets that I think we need to regulate. But the fact that people think this is happening widespread on a nightly basis, and every time a call goes against your particular wager, you think it's rigged.
Yeah.
It's completely asinine. It's not the right way to look at this situation. I think there's a lot of incompetence that's involved on a nightly basis with the referees and with the way they officiate the games, but that doesn't mean that there's malpractice. So I think this is not happening widespread. This is an isolated incident. Certain athletes, they make so much money. It just is not in their best interest to even pursue this kind of, activity. And I think for the most part, it's just bad officiating most
Yeah.
nights that people get upset about.
Now, as a gambler, is this, Jared, all this stuff going to give you any pause whatsoever in betting on the NBA?
No, I don't bet the NBA a lot, period.
At
Um,
all?
yeah, very rarely. Usually later
Oh,
in the year.
wow.
I'm very focused on football during football season.
Yes.
I try to keep my eye on the ball because I'm just, I get asked on so many more football shows and I do so much more football content that
Mm.
basketball doesn't become a big thing until later on in the year for me. But I will not hesitate at all. And especially when you're getting close to the playoffs, you notice the one thing about all these games, like none of them were playoff games. None of them were high profile games. They're
Yeah.
all games where teams are tanking or teams are missing stars. So it's like, again, like I think the high leverage games, J Mac, like none of those are ever really impacted by this. This is
Yeah.
all lower level stuff. We see this a lot in college basketball at like the
Oh,
Division
yeah.
three level. Like I see a lot of this at the lower levels of sports where it's harder to get down on the games, but they fly under the radar more, which also makes it more unique because then if there's a large amount of money that gets placed on some random D2 game, it raises the red flags of
Yeah.
the integrity organizations that monitor this. But if we're talking about, hey, it's the playoffs, I want to bet LeBron over under points, like I'm not going to think twice about any of this when I
No.
fire off those wagers.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. All right, well, we could wrap up with this, Jared. NFL Week 8. Yeah, I listen. I'm doing the contest. It's spinning my wheels. 18 and 17. Fortunately, the public is getting slaughtered
Yeah.
this year. They're doing horribly. I think they're at like 39% in the contest or something. I am just curious. Do any games jump out at you? Because this week kind of sort of sucks, right? 6 teams on a bye. You had the Thursday night game. The Monday night game's a double-digit spread. You got Colts Titans is, I think, minus 15 right now. It just feels like there aren't many great games to bet this week. Do you have anything that jumps out? And teasers are allowed, just for the record.
If you can get teasers, I really like a Falcons to Eagles teaser. I think Philly, revenge spot for them. You have to face
Yep.
the same team twice in 2.5 weeks. I think that's a really good. And Giants coming off that. I like teams that are coming back from difficult travel situations or fading these teams. Like we're going to get Jacksonville in a little bit. They're going to come to Vegas. And I love fading teams the week after they come to Vegas. I love fading teams the week after they go to Denver. And that game was nuts last week for the Giants. So I think you can put the Eagles in a teaser and feel pretty good, even without A.J. Brown. And in the Falcons, I mean, the Dolphins look like the worst team in the NFL right now, besides maybe Tennessee and New York. So I
Yeah.
think Atlanta coming off their loss to San Francisco, right? I like zigzagging. Anytime a team's coming off a ATS loss or just a loss in general, I like betting on them when they're facing a team. It'd be more helpful if they were coming off of a win or a cover like the Giants are in the Philly case, but in the Dolphins case, I think we just fade them. The Broncos are in that situation, right? Dallas off a really good win against Washington. Broncos had that crazy win where they were fortunate to just win the game. They didn't cover. Now you get a little bit of a shorter line this week against Denver. I got 3 with the Broncos laying a field goal.
So you
I
took
think that's a
Denver.
decent bet too. Yeah, I would play Denver
Interesting.
this week. I don't like
Yeah,
Dallas's
yeah.
defense at all.
No, no, no. I don't even think Dallas likes their defense.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. I did just have to look this up. So AJ Brown didn't practice Wednesday. I was waiting. I was like, oh, maybe he's getting a veteran rest. He didn't practice Thursday, and
Yeah, it's a little concerning.
I do wonder. I mean, the Giants secondary is trash. We know that, but nobody out there scares you. And could they just play up? Hey, we're double dog dare you, Devontae Smith, to go beat us deep. I just the Eagles kind of scare me, and I'm going to be honest. The Falcons, I've liked them a lot all season. This spot scares me. We may take them in Survivor, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. I don't know if I can stomach the Falcons because they're always due for a stinker, bro. And Michael Penix, by the way, limited in practice. The Kirk Cousins experience last year. I mean, I think he led the league in pick sixes. I'm not poking holes in your bets. I'm just saying, like, I like nothing this week.
Yeah, I agree. It is a tough week. I don't have as many like. I think the Falcons get home. To me Miami is on the verge. But yeah, the Penix injury certainly scares me. I think the Patriots. So the Browns have had this weird thing where their defense sucks on the road. They're allowing like 80% of their road opponents over the last 2 years to go over their team total. So if you think New England's offense is legit and you think Cleveland's defense doesn't travel as well, that should be a really good crowd this week, right? The Patriots have been on the road for the last couple weeks. Now they come back home and they're They look like I don't want to say Super Bowl contender, but they definitely look like they're at least in contention for a playoff spot, maybe even the division. So I think that'll be a good crowd in New England at Foxborough on Sunday. And you can get 23.5. So you go over 23.5 on the Patriots team total. They get to
Yeah.
24, you win. I feel like
Their
that's a
offense.
decent bet.
I do. I mean, again, this is nitpicking, but like Drake May every week is in the freaking blue medical tent. I can't stand that. It terrifies me because he's really good. Last one is the Texans Niners. Texans taking money on Thursday. I like them, but I'm worried about Nico Collins. I hate betting against the Niners, but I just think this is a matchup nightmare. By far the best defense Mac Jones will have faced with the Texans, and they're coming off, like you said, off an embarrassing loss where they looked horrible. But again, Nico Collins with the concussion, if he's not there, that's already a crap offense with rookie receivers. I don't.
I agree.
Bad.
I think Houston shuts down McCaffrey, which is the way you shut down the Niners these days, right? Like Atlanta did not shut down McCaffrey last week. I
Yep.
think Houston will do a better job of that. The market's kind of telling you to bet Houston there, right? San Francisco's record looks good. They've kind of strung together some wins. And Houston's looked terrible, especially on Monday. But the Texans, again, still favored and the number moving in their direction. So it's kind of your indicator that Houston maybe is a little bit better than their record and maybe their recent play indicated. But I agree with you. Nico is a big injury if he's not going to play.
This is not a bad week, Jared. As you know, the phrase to keep the powder dry. Save it for next week. I know it's tough. I know it's difficult. Maybe go to a Halloween party, interact with humans. But anyways,
yeah,
right,
touch
Jared
some
Smith.
grass, as they say.
Touch grass is my kid. Yes. All right, Jared Smith, Fox Sports Radio, Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. Keep up the good work, man. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it, J Mac.